There is something sitting in millions of American kitchens right now, something most people over 60 eat almost every single day, and it is quietly setting their body on fire. Not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly, steadily, invisibly. And the cruelest part? Most people who are eating it believe they are making a healthy choice. They've been told it's fine. They've been eating it for decades. And all that time, it has been fueling a process inside their body that underlies nearly every major disease of aging, from arthritis to heart disease to memory loss to chronic pain that never quite goes away. If you've been dealing with stiff joints in the morning, fatigue that lingers no matter how much you rest, a digestive system that feels constantly unsettled, or a general sense that your body is just not working the way it used to, please do not brush this off as normal aging. Because what I'm about to share with you changes the way a lot of people think about their daily diet. And for many of them, making one specific change made a difference they could feel within weeks. Stay with me, because this is one of those conversations that has the potential to genuinely shift things for you. I want you to think about a man named Dennis, 72 years old, former school principal from Tennessee, healthy weight, didn't smoke, walked 30 minutes most mornings, took his medications faithfully. By every standard measure, Dennis was doing the right things, and yet for 5 years, he woke up every morning with hands so stiff he could barely make a fist. His knees ached. His lower back was a constant, dull, exhausting presence. His doctor checked his inflammation markers, and they were elevated. Not dangerously high, but chronically, persistently above where they should be. His doctor adjusted his medications, referred him to a specialist. But nobody asked him what he was eating for breakfast every morning. Nobody asked about the one food that had been a part of his routine for 50 years. And that oversight, as it turned out, was costing Dennis years of comfort. We'll come back to Dennis, because what happened when he finally made the change is the part that matters most. If this is your first time here, welcome. At Dr. Silas Redford Wellness, we make it our mission to talk about the health topics that truly affect people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, the real, everyday things that your annual checkup rarely covers. If this kind of information matters to you, I'd genuinely love for you to subscribe and leave a like. It helps us reach more people who need to hear this. And if someone you care about is dealing with chronic pain, fatigue, or inflammation, please share this with them. It could be exactly what they've been looking for. Now, let's talk about inflammation, what it actually is, why it becomes so dangerous as we age, and then the specific food that is driving it in more seniors than any other single dietary source. First, let's make sure we understand what we're dealing with. Inflammation itself is not the enemy. Acute inflammation, the kind that happens when you cut your finger or catch a cold, is your immune system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It sends resources to the problem, deals with it, and then quiets back down. That process is protective. That process is necessary. Chronic inflammation is something entirely different. It's when that same immune response never fully shuts off. It simmers, day after day, year after year, producing a constant stream of inflammatory chemicals that slowly damage tissues, stiffen arteries, wear down cartilage, cloud cognitive function, and raise the risk of virtually every serious disease associated with aging. And here is what makes it so insidious. It often produces no dramatic symptoms in the early stages, just a vague sense that things aren't quite right. Fatigue, achiness, digestive discomfort, brain fog, things that are easy to dismiss, things that doctors often attribute simply to getting older. But here's what researchers have learned, and what is now very well established in the medical literature. Diet is one of the most powerful drivers of chronic inflammation. What you eat every single day is either turning down that inflammatory fire or turning it up. And for adults over 60, whose immune systems are already working differently than they did at 40, the impact of diet on inflammation is even more pronounced. So what is the number one food secretly driving inflammation in seniors across America? It is refined vegetable oils, specifically the highly processed seed oils. Things like soybean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, and sunflower oil that have become the invisible backbone of the modern American diet. And before you think I don't use those, I need you to understand something important. You almost certainly are consuming them every single day in amounts that would genuinely surprise you, because these oils are not just in bottles on grocery store shelves. They are in nearly every packaged food, every restaurant meal, every fast food item, most store-bought salad dressings, most crackers, chips, breads, frozen meals, sauces, soups, and baked goods that line American supermarket shelves. They are everywhere, and most people have no idea how much they're consuming. Here's why this matters so deeply for your body. These refined seed oils are extraordinarily high in something called omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, omega-6 fats are not inherently bad. Your body needs some of them. The problem is the ratio. Historically, humans ate a diet where omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids were consumed in roughly equal amounts, maybe a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio. Today, the average American consumes omega-6 fats at 15 to 20 times the amount of omega-3s. Some researchers put that number even higher. Why does the ratio matter? Because omega-6 fatty acids, when consumed in excess, are directly converted by your body into pro-inflammatory compounds. Compounds that signal your immune system to stay activated, compounds that keep that low-grade fire burning, and omega-3 fatty acids, found in fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, do the opposite. They produce anti-inflammatory compounds that tell your immune system to calm down. When that balance is severely skewed toward omega-6, as it is in almost every senior eating a standard American diet, the result is a body chronically tilted toward inflammation. But what happened next in the research is what really shocked scientists. When researchers began studying specifically how these refined oils affect people over 60, as opposed to younger populations, they found something striking. The inflammatory response was significantly more intense in older adults. The same amount of dietary omega-6 imbalance that might produce mild inflammation in a 40-year-old was producing much more pronounced markers in seniors. The researchers believe this is because the aging immune system loses some of its regulatory precision. It's less able to modulate the inflammatory response, meaning dietary triggers have a larger and more lasting impact. In other words, if refined seed oils were harmful to your inflammation levels at 40, they are substantially more harmful at 65, 70, or 75. And here's the part that most doctors rarely bring up in a standard appointment. These oils do something else that compounds the problem. Because they are chemically unstable, particularly when heated, they oxidize rapidly. When you heat soybean oil or corn oil to cooking temperature, it breaks down and produces toxic byproducts called aldehydes and lipid peroxides. These compounds don't just sit quietly in your body. They trigger additional oxidative stress, which is essentially cellular damage at a molecular level. And oxidative stress and chronic inflammation are deeply intertwined. Each one feeds and intensifies the other. So every time these oils are used in cooking, and they are the primary cooking oil in virtually every restaurant in America, you are potentially consuming both the inflammatory fatty acid imbalance and the oxidized byproducts of high heat cooking. A double burden on your immune system. Let me bring you back to Dennis. When a nutritionally informed physician finally reviewed his diet in detail, the refined seed oil issue became immediately apparent. Dennis ate out 3 or 4 times a week. He used a popular store-bought salad dressing daily, which listed soybean oil as its second ingredient. He ate crackers and snack foods that contained corn oil. He bought a heart-healthy margarine spread that was primarily made from refined vegetable oils. And like most Americans, he had no idea any of this was a problem. He thought he was being careful. He thought he was making reasonable choices. His physician suggested a targeted shift, replacing refined seed oils with extra virgin olive oil at home, switching to a simple homemade olive oil and lemon dressing, choosing whole food snacks over packaged ones, and being more deliberate about restaurant choices. No extreme diet, no deprivation, just a fundamental change to the type of fat in his daily life. Within 6 weeks, Dennis reported that his morning hand stiffness had decreased noticeably. By 3 months, his follow-up inflammation blood work showed measurable improvement. He told his doctor, and I love this, that his hands felt like they belonged to a younger man. He was genuinely moved by how significant the change was, and he was angry that it had taken 5 years for anyone to talk to him about this. Dennis is not a unique case. He is an extraordinarily common one. Now let's talk about what you can do, because awareness without action doesn't change anything. And the good news is, the practical steps here are simpler than you might expect. The first and most important step is to start reading ingredient labels with one specific goal: finding and avoiding soybean oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil that is partially hydrogenated, and sunflower oil in packaged and processed foods. These will often be listed among the first few ingredients. When you start looking, you will be genuinely surprised how many products contain them. The second step is to replace your cooking oils at home. Extra virgin olive oil is the gold standard. It has been studied extensively for its anti-inflammatory properties, is rich in beneficial polyphenols, and is stable at moderate cooking temperatures. For higher heat cooking, avocado oil is an excellent choice. Both of these are profoundly different from refined seed oils in terms of their effect on your body's inflammatory state. Third, and this is worth paying close attention to, increase your omega-3 intake to help rebalance that ratio we talked about. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel are the most potent dietary sources. If fish isn't a regular part of your diet, a high-quality omega-3 supplement, preferably one that has been third-party tested for purity, is worth discussing with your doctor. Walnuts and ground flaxseed are also meaningful plant-based sources. Even modest, consistent increases in omega-3 consumption can begin to shift that inflammatory balance within weeks. Fourth, be especially cautious when eating out. Most restaurants cook with soybean or corn oil simply because it's inexpensive. This doesn't mean you can never eat at a restaurant. That's not a realistic or enjoyable way to live. But being selective, asking how food is prepared, and choosing restaurants that use higher quality oils can make a real difference in your cumulative exposure over time. There's also a myth worth addressing directly. For years, saturated fats, things like butter, coconut oil, and animal fats, were blamed as the primary drivers of inflammation and heart disease. The science on this has become considerably more nuanced. While no one is suggesting you eat butter by the spoonful, the blanket demonization of saturated fat led many people and many health organizations to replace it with refined vegetable oils, which, as we now understand, created an entirely different and arguably more serious inflammatory problem. The picture is more complicated than the simple advice of the 1980s and 1990s suggested. What the current body of research increasingly supports is this: the type of fat matters enormously. Minimally processed fats from whole food sources, olive oil, avocado, nuts, fatty fish, tend to support a less inflammatory internal environment. Highly refined, industrially processed seed oils tend to promote inflammation, particularly in the quantities most Americans consume them. Now, it would be incomplete to talk about inflammation without mentioning that diet is one piece of a larger picture. Poor sleep, chronic stress, sedentary behavior, and excess body weight all contribute meaningfully to chronic inflammation as well. Addressing all of these together produces the most powerful results. But food is foundational, because it is something you engage with multiple times every single day. Every meal is either a small step toward less inflammation or a small step toward more. Over months and years, those small steps accumulate into something that shows up clearly in how you feel. There is a woman named Evelyn, 68, a grandmother from Colorado, who came to this information after years of unexplained digestive discomfort and fatigue. She described herself as someone who had tried everything: different diets, supplements, tests. After shifting away from refined seed oils and increasing her anti-inflammatory foods, she said something that stayed with me. She said, "I finally feel like my body and I are on the same team." That is exactly what reducing chronic inflammation can feel like. Not a dramatic miracle, but a quieting, a steadiness, a return to feeling like yourself. You deserve that, and the path there is more accessible than you might think. If today's information opened your eyes or shifted something in how you think about your daily diet, I'd really love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is one change you're going to try first? Your experience matters, and reading your thoughts genuinely helps others in this community who are going through similar things. If you have a spouse, a sibling, or a friend who is dealing with chronic pain, fatigue, or inflammation, please share this with them. You might be handing them an answer they've been searching for without realizing it. And if you want to keep building this kind of knowledge, week by week, one honest conversation at a time, subscribe and stay with us. You are not helpless against what's happening in your body. You never were. The information just wasn't always in front of you. Now it is, and now you can use it.